What is going on, Crisis Actors? It is episode 978 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and it is Tuesday, so I have a very special guest co-host today with me. Introduce yourself, please.
I am back. It's Colonel Kurtz. What's up, everybody? And I have actually moved to a different location, so my setup is a little bit informal here. But
I like it. It's esoteric looking.
It's definitely not. It's definitely nicer than my typical decorating style. But yeah, I have a better setup next week. But just moved. So hello, everybody. This is my first video from new location.
Yes, and if you guys don't know, Colonel Kurtz, she's what you'd call a friend of the channel. She's been on several times, and she runs her own very successful YouTube channel. Yes. In fact, I've got it pulled up here. Why don't you tell everybody about the type of stuff that you've been covering?
Yeah, so I cover some overlap with what you do here, but pop culture, celebrity stuff. I've done a lot of debunking of Me Too hoaxes over the years. Started out doing Johnny Depp, Amber Heard stories. But yeah, I do a range of things. Also get into politics and film and even some philosophy. I used to be an English professor, so you can also find some philosophy and literature and film videos on my channel. But yeah, just a range of things.
You have a very eclectic amount of stuff that you talk about. It's so funny because there's videos Candace Owens, and there's U.S. grabs Venezuelan dictator.
Yes, that's right. I try to do some politics, although the algorithm doesn't like that for me. So not as much, but yeah.
Have you found that the algorithm, it tends to punish you if you don't stay on like the same track that you've been on with like the things that you cover?
Yeah, especially because so many of my videos the first couple of years were devoted to the Johnny Depp Amber Heard saga, and so I think that really set the pattern for my audience. And so, as you know, when you put out a video, YouTube shows it to your subscriber base first, and it bases whether or not it's going to promote the video more widely on whether or not your subscribers choose to watch or like that video. And so that's kind of boxed me in somewhere. Like, it's harder when I do a political video or I do a philosophy or film video, it's harder to get traction. But over time, I think you can shift the algorithm. And so I've been working on that to an extent. But yeah, the Candace Owens videos been doing well.
See, I've never been able to find any rhyme or reason as to why, because our show is ostensibly a variety show, and I've never been able to find like a good explanation as to why some things do well some days and other days that they don't. Because we'll cover a topic, and the first day you cover it, it does really, really well, and then you do a follow-up to it. Oftentimes, the more interesting information ends up in the follow-up to a story, and those ones will like tank and not do well at all. So we've just kind of tried to not, what you don't want, at least for me, is like the idea of like audience capture. I want to be able to just talk about whatever interests me that day and kind of let it, if it lives, it lives. If it dies, it dies, and just go for it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I try to do a kind of a variety, or I try to have a sort of a varied strategy with that, where I'll put out videos regularly that I think will do well, but then I'll put up also things that I like that are a bit off the beaten track. Lately, actually, this past week, I've had some success with an old skincare video that I did. I did a 2-hour skincare video. And the reason it's doing well this week is because I had posted it under somebody posted on Twitter about a client of theirs. This was a matchmaker. Okay. And she posted about a client of hers who was going to marry this woman that he thought was 32 years old. And he found out right before the wedding, she confessed that she was actually 45.
What?
Yeah, and so the wedding was, needless to say, called off, especially because he wanted kids, and also she lied, right? And so, but anyway, there were a lot, and this, by the way, this post got like 4 or 5 million views on Twitter. It really caught on. And so there were people on the thread that were saying it's impossible for someone to be 45 and look 32. This guy must have been stupid. And I was like, well, no, actually these days it's very possible. I still get carded. And so anyway, I posted a skincare video and I got a lot of clicks on it.
Well, also if you tie it to something that's currently in the news, it will always do better.
Right.
Yeah. Guys, what you should do first, because we have a lot of news to get into today, you should hit the like button on this video and subscribe to this channel if you are new here and you have not subscribed here yet already. Please and thank you. I think we have passed, last I checked, 390 1,000 subscribers, so the channel is still growing, and I want to thank all of you so much for that. And go and check out the content and like the videos that you actually enjoy, because one of the best ways that you can help the channel grow is to like the videos that are making the content that you actually want to see. It tells YouTube that you want to see this stuff, and it helps us out a ton. Also, if you, I have a bet going right now with myself. I put a poll up in the chat. I said, will this episode get demonetized? Because I have done 2 videos covering the topic of Timothy Busfield, and both of those videos were unceremoniously demonetized almost instantly. So I am wondering if you guys believe, as I do, that this episode will in fact get demonetized. It absolutely probably will. But if, you know, for the people that don't want to have to put up with changing their language and how they speak about things, you can go over and you can subscribe to us over on Rumble. We are still growing slowly but surely over there as well. So that is another place that you can check out our content. So what are we getting into today? There is a bunch of stuff. Number one, of course, being actor Timothy Busfield, who has been... He has been accused and is now has warrants out for his arrest for crimes that are of a very, very perverse nature. Again, I'm trying to be as charitable as I can with my language here so that YouTube will not automatically demonetize this video, but I have a feeling it's kind of a losing effort. Anyways, both, so I did videos about the arrest warrant that was issued for him, and then some follow-up information, and now it seems that the actor himself is on the run because the U.S. Marshals have been brought in to aid Albuquerque law enforcement in trying to track him down. This all relates back to accusations that were made against him on the set of the 2022 show The Cleaning Lady with Elodie Young. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Scott Adams and the media's absolutely despicable smearing of Scott Adams, which I think anybody could see coming, unfortunately, because we know how awful legacy media is. So we're going to talk about that. We are also going to talk about the latest line item from Mattel being, I believe last year we did cover the Down syndrome Barbie. Well, they have one-upped themselves. Okay, I see you laughing a little bit there. So they have one-upped themselves. They have released an Autistic Barbie, complete with fidget spinner, noise-canceling headphones, and all of this other stuff. So we are going to get into that. We are going to talk about it. Also, I want to discuss whether or not the Duffer Brothers of Stranger Things fame cheated, and that is why, and people are saying that is true, because they found ChatGPT tabs open during a documentary that was made about the last season of Stranger Things. And I guess the quick conversation would be about, is it okay to use such things when you're writing your TV show? I imagine there's at least one, you know, film snob or art snob in the chat who would say no, but perhaps there's a discussion to be had there. But if you're ready, Kurtz, we can just go. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, let's go for it, ladies and gentlemen. So in a story that is both despicable and unbelievably predictable, the media did not even wait for the body of Scott Adams to be cold before they began smearing him in their stories about him. If you saw this was from People magazine. It said, Scott Adams, disgraced Dilbert creator, dies at 68. And then it literally says right down here, Dilbert was dropped from dozens of newspapers after Adams' racist comments in a 2023 rant. They then, of course, wait until the very bottom paragraph to give any sort of description as to what they classify that as. And what it reminded me of is the bias that they have in media, because the very first thing that I thought of when this story broke was, who remembers back in, I believe it was 2020, when the head of the Islamic State died, and they described him as an austere religious scholar, al-Baghdadi. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That's what I think of when I think of liberal bias, and there's been a lot of commentary these days about whether the podcast generation can be trusted and whether, you know, they're any better than the legacy media. But I would contend that these stories are the reason why people don't trust the legacy media.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And look, what they're referring to with referring to him as disgraced, and they're making reference to a supposedly racist diatribe that he went on one of his shows. It was, his comments at that point on that show, they were definitely edgy, they were controversial, and he acknowledged that. He contextualized it with that acknowledgement. And so I understand, you know, if they wanted to use the term controversial, that would have been, I think, more appropriate.
Yeah,
Disgraced.
absolutely.
Yeah, disgraced is just, and look, here's the thing, and you know this. When you are year after year, day after day, putting out content, you're going to, especially if you're trying to put out interesting intellectual content, you are going to at times say things that are controversial, that are offensive. And so I think that it's really unfortunate that the media are focusing on probably the most controversial thing that he ever said, the most controversial episode that he ever did, and they're making that representative of the whole. Now, I'm not going to take us off the beaten track and get into what he was actually talking about when he made those comments, but let's just say that they were heavily contextualized, and that if you actually watch that episode, watch that podcast that week, then you would see that he was making legitimate points, and there were actually a number of Black people that agreed with him, and he has a number of Black fans that totally got the point that he was making. And so, you know, this is predictable that when a major conservative figure dies, then this is the kind of response that the media has. But it is sad, and Scott Adams has a long legacy, a large body of work, and it's unfortunate that it's now getting reduced to the most controversial thing that he ever said and being completely decontextualized. But that's what we come to expect from the legacy media.
Well, I wouldn't want, like, for instance, I wouldn't want if tomorrow Mark Ruffalo was to pass away, I wouldn't want or expect any conservative outlet to describe him by whatever the most annoying thing or worst thing he ever said about Trump or conservatives ever was. And I kind of took the same line on Rob Reiner when Rob Reiner passed. It's like, I don't need to hear about his TDS or all of these things. He's passed on. It was horrifying, and I would rather hear about the things that he did that brought something good to the world. Now, I understand that if you're deep in the political space and you view all of these things where you have this tendency to see everybody on the opposite side of the aisle as an enemy to you, I get it, because a lot of these situations do end up being, if not life and death, they have strong consequences for the future. I get it. But the decorum that, you know, I don't expect Donald Trump to always have the decorum of the rest of the world, but the media, if they're talking about somebody who's passed on, I would like some decorum for that person.
Yeah, some decorum, and at the very least, again, a larger focus on the totality of that person's life and work, and not a laser focus on the most controversial, perhaps most problematic thing, if you disagree with what he said, that he ever said. And I noticed something else too, is that on the Daily Mail site, when they announced earlier today that Scott Adams had died, you know, it was their banner headline, so to speak. I noticed that they featured prominently a photo of him with his ex-wife, Christina Basham. And look, Christina was significantly younger than Scott. She looks even younger than she is. She looks like she could be in her 20s. I think she's actually in her mid to late 30s, but she looks significantly younger. And it was very clear what they were trying to do. They were trying to show this older guy robbing the cradle, so to speak, with this. I mean, there was no reason to put his ex-wife in the picture. First of all, Scott has a couple of ex-wives. Why are you going to take the one who looks so young and looks like an OnlyFans model and make that a prominent photo? Well, that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to basically portray him as this sleazy old dude who was robbing the cradle. That relationship is well in the past, and to anyone who followed that relationship, Christina Basham, it seems, was, in my opinion, not a nice person. And I think she took Scott for a ride, and I think she turned out to be manipulative and deceptive. And there's a whole soap opera with that. But I really don't appreciate the way that she's being foregrounded as well, that relationship, in some of this coverage. Also,
people then, of course, went out to dunk on the lady who wrote the Scott Adams article. I saw Josie posted this. Raw Egg Nationalist posted this. They were posting the article and its author, and basically saying, like, look, you're being a scumbag, and you should at the very least be held accountable for your awful take with what you're saying here. I would rather see, and he released a statement of his own, but I'm gonna reference here first what his ex-wife had said. So Sherry Miles announced his death during a January 13th episode of his Coffee with Scott Adams podcast. Miles read a final message that Adams wrote and wanted to share. If you are, and I can pull it up here. If anybody hasn't seen this, it's on X right now.
Wait, is Sherry Miles his first ex-wife?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Okay, go ahead then.
So it says, if you are reading this, things did not go well for me. I have a few things to say before I go. My body failed before my brain. I am of sound mind as I write this, January 1st, 2026. If you wonder about any of my choices for my estate or anything else, please know I am free of any coercion or any inappropriate influence of any sort, I promise. Next, many of my Christian friends have asked me to find Jesus before I go. I am not a believer, but I have to admit the risk-reward calculation for doing so looks attractive. So here I go. I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and I look forward to spending an eternity with him. The part about me not being a believer should be quickly resolved if I wake up in heaven. I won't need any more convincing than that, and I hope I am still qualified for entry. With your permission, I'd like to explain a few things in his life. And he gets into the details about all the good that he's done, right? He talks about the many, many books that he's written, the many hours of entertainment that he's given to people, where he's having these philosophical discussions about life and living that, on top of Dilbert being the success that Dilbert was, especially when I was a child, that leads to a life of far more than one comment that is taken as edgy or hateful, right? If the sole comment that they can grab doesn't manage to outweigh all of the other good things that they've done in their life, I don't think that's representative of an unbiased media. I think it's absolutely representative of a media that's looking to frame a person a specific way despite all the good they've done.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And one of the things that I think is so interesting about Scott's career and his trajectory is how he has gone through so many different iterations and has evolved. And there's such a wide breadth and also depth of work there. And again, it's just a shame that some in the media are choosing to flatten that out and just focus on the most controversial aspect.
Did you watch much of him, or was it something that you noticed like other people that watch him? Because that's the thing. Like, he's one of those people where even though his content wasn't something that I regularly consumed, he was so prevalent in the space that you had to understand that this person was more than one or two edgy sound bites, because that's almost everybody that makes it in this space. They've got a couple of comments, everybody tries to push and find the line, find where the line is. And that's just kind of the cost of doing business in this industry.
Right. So I was not a regular viewer or listener of his, but my significant other was more interested in his content than I was. But I would say that I probably watched or listened to his show maybe once a month on average. And again, I think that even the controversial race comments, if you actually, I did watch that show, that podcast, and if you actually watch it, he was trying to have as people like to say, a real conversation about race relations, and was trying to get real about things that people really think and feel, and some realities there. So again, it wasn't like he's not some like shock jock that's just trying to pop off. And it was actually, if you watch it again, he was, in a way, it was brave. He was trying to make some points that people don't often make. And he had a number of, again, Black fans and followers who got what he was saying and agreed with them. So
this is the same thing to an extent of what happened to Hulk Hogan when Hulk Hogan passed, though I would probably make the argument that Hulk Hogan was such a level of fame that it didn't affect the same way. Like, many of the people outside of the wrestling industry made it about Hulk Hogan's comments, that he got caught, on that video with Bubba the Love Sponge's wife or whatever it was. But within the wrestling industry themselves, even people who might be the most progressive weren't going to tell you that Hulk Hogan wasn't the most influential person in the history of the wrestling business.
Right. He was the one, by the way, Hulk Hogan was the one who bankrupted, with the help of Peter Thiel, bankrupted Gawker, right? With that lawsuit. Yeah. Well, good for him on that. For him on that.
If you're in the chat, guys, do share, the best piece of, I guess, advice or life lessons that you might have taken away from Scott Adams, and share with other people. That's how you can help spread the word of what he's said and, his message to the world with other people, and hopefully counteract the garbage that you're seeing from the media outlets, which is what I'm trying to get away from.
Now, I will say, I'm not a theologian, but I do think that his position on Christianity that he expressed there, it's a bit of a head scratcher. Look, I don't judge anyone facing death for anything that they say or do as relates to the question of God and religion and the afterlife, because I'm sure when you get down to the end, there's a lot going on, right? And I lost a significant other years ago to lung cancer and stuff. So I mean, I've seen this phenomenon, but it is a bit of a head scratcher there. The idea that you're going to say that you actually don't believe in something, but you're basically going to hedge your bets by committing to it. I don't know exactly how that works.
What is that? Is that Pascal's wager, basically?
Well, yeah, except I kind of feel like Pascal's wager was that I kind of feel like the idea with that was that you still need to believe. And I'm not sure how you believe in something and at the same time you don't believe in it. I don't know. And again, I don't judge people. I used to be a born again Christian. I don't consider myself a Christian anymore. I'm loosely consider myself a theist. And so again, I'm not judging it. I do think though that it's a bit of a head scratcher on that one. But again, people facing the end, it's you and I have not been there. We don't know what that's like. And I'm sure that it's very difficult when you get to the end and you don't have a solid faith in anything, but also you are scared to go to die without that in some way resolved. So, I mean, I get it, but
you could actually say that it speaks a lot to his message that he got so many messages from Christians who appreciated and loved his work and wanted to, help him see the light that they see. And that's a beautiful thing as well, because he reached across, I guess, the proverbial aisle to people who may not be of the same faith or the same understanding as him. And to those people's credit, a lot of them say, I love your work and I want you to have the same solace that I have. And that's a good thing.
Right. And I also think as well that maybe what was going on there with Scott that he didn't perhaps quite express in the way that I would have is that I think that he wanted to affirm or have some kind of faith in God going, as he goes into the next life or the afterlife. And because we live in a Christian society, that is the way that most people express their spirituality. It's not the way that I express it. It's not my belief, but I also think there's a sense in which when one gets to the end of their life, they want to have and express a faith in God. And so since Christianity is the sort of de facto belief system in our society, then that's the way then that people choose to express that, if that makes any sense.
Well, rest in peace, Scott Adams, and the media is garbage for doing what they're doing right now, as we all know.
I agree.
All right, guys, let's move on. Let's talk about Paramount and Warner Brothers. It feels like this story has been going on. I guess it was since around Thanksgiving, but it's getting funnier and funnier in the most ridiculous of ways. Right now, David Ellison, who is the head of Paramount, he is essentially acting like a very, very bitter and crazy ex-girlfriend asking Warner Brothers, why won't you take me back? Why won't you take me back? I guess he never had them to begin with, but he is now, I'm not even kidding you, he is suing Warner Brothers Discovery, the company that he is trying to buy, because he wants access to their financials, because he wants to know just what the hell is going on with this Netflix deal. And they're basically launching their own proxy fight, I guess kind of in the same vein that Nelson Peltz did with Disney back in like 2023 when they were trying to make changes at Disney. And he wants to know why his $30 a share offer, which is now his 8th offer to the company, keeps getting rejected. And he's suing because he wants basically the financial information between the two companies disclosed, because he thinks that there's some type of funny business there. And he says that David Zaslav, who, if you don't know, I'm sure most of you who are watching this channel, you've seen me at the very least talk about this endlessly. David Zaslav being the head of Warner Brothers Discovery, he believes that he is breaching his duties to disclose this information to his shareholders to help them make the best effort towards what they want to go through. And this is a big deal now because Trump has also come out against the Netflix deal in something that feels a bit inorganic to me, but we'll get into that a little bit as well. So this is an article from Variety. It says Paramount Skydance sues Warner Brothers Discovery, seeking financial details on the Netflix deal. David Ellison's Paramount Skydance on Monday sued Warner Brothers Discovery, seeking to force Warner Brothers to disclose financial details of its $83 billion deal with Netflix. Remember, the deal for Warner Brothers the deal for Warner Brothers if they went to Paramount was for like $103 or $108 billion. And of course, I'm not a financial manager. I don't work on Wall Street, but as I said yesterday, I'm like, bigger number, look better. Like, I don't know what the details are that makes an $83 billion deal better for Warner Brothers, other than the fact that they get to hold on to their terrestrial television networks a la Discovery, and perhaps David Zaslav just wants to remain in control of that. But it just seems weird to me that you wouldn't go with the deal that seems to have a strong case. Like, both of them face uphill battles as far as regulatory approval, but who knows, right? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
So the uphill battle with the regulatory approval is the issue there would be that that the government might not approve of such a huge, like almost a monopoly type situation. Not a monopoly, but like
Netflix is the #1 streaming service, and HBO Max is the number 3.
Right. Well, and I guess, if you're wanting to cut through the BS and figure out what's actually going on with the financials, a lawsuit is the way to go, because it's the only way that you can compel discovery, right? And so if he feels like there's some shadiness going on and there's some stuff that's being hidden, then I guess that's the only recourse that you have is a lawsuit, right?
But it just seems like then, okay, so they make them, they do the lawsuit, they make them sell to Paramount, and now everybody hates each other because they've been fighting. Like, that's the way it feels to me, right? It's like, okay, so they clearly don't want you, but you want to force yourself into the relationship. And I know that business is not that emotional, right? It's not the same thing.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of egos involved, and I think that I do think I'm not an expert in about the business world or corporate world, but I do think that ego does play a much larger role than we would think. And sometimes it isn't just about the numbers or just about what would be technically the best thing for the company. And so it's interesting how all this stuff gets so intertwined, and then you have personalities involved and everything. So
it does feel that way about David Ellison, right? Like, he made this offer and they said no, and he's like, he's not taking no for an answer, right? He's like, look, I got a lot of money, I got a lot of ego. We got a $20 super chat here from Shane H. Wilder. Thank you so much,
Hey,
man.
Shane.
He says, my favorite Scott Adams Dilbert script will always be the boss asking the employee what his goals for the year were. The employee responds, to replace my blood with coffee and become immortal. Scott will live in infamy. Yeah. Well, look, as a newly found fan of coffee, I can appreciate it. I didn't start actually drinking coffee until this year. Let me tell you, I have replaced energy drinks, and I just drink cold brew coffee now.
How did you make it that far in life without getting into coffee?
Well, I won't drink. I don't like hot coffee, so okay.
I
found like cold brew is like the answer to that for me. We have another 20 here from Pop Culture Junkie, who is the residential PCC insider. He's always got the details on what's going on in Hollywood. He says, it's pretty clear to me that the Ellisons are trying to play beat the clock until stockholders finally vote their will. A lot of my contacts from various parts of the business think the lawsuit smells of desperation. Like, I mean, that was my take from it. My 85 IQ take on it was like, he sounds like a jealous ex. But it goes on. It says, the company said it will nominate. Okay, I'm going to roll it back here. It says they're seeking to force Warner Brothers Discovery to disclose financial details of the $83 billion deal with Netflix. Paramount also officially announced plans to launch a proxy fight for Warner Brothers Discovery. The company said it will nominate a slate of directors who, in accordance with their fiduciary duties, will exercise Warner Brothers' right under the Netflix agreement to engage on Paramount's offer and enter into a transaction with Paramount. The litigation comes after the board of Warner Brothers Discovery rejected Paramount's latest $30 a share all-cash bid. That was the other thing, all cash. And they had like Jared Kushner pulled out, the Saudis pulled out. It's becoming more American as as everybody pulls, people had strong concerns about Saudi Arabia, and even at a point China was invested in this, and they're like, that brings more problems with the government because there's a governmental board on foreign investment, which is something you would have to bypass as well. But now it just seems like it's like more and more of it just ends up being David Ellison and Larry Ellison using their $1 billion to do this. And this says the litigation comes after the offer was ignored. The 8th offer put forward by Ellison from his backers and, of course, his father, Larry Ellison. This is the quote. It says, Warner Brothers Discovery has failed to include any disclosure about how it valued the global network's stub equity, how it valued the overall Netflix transaction, how the purchase price reduction for debt works in the Netflix transaction, or even what the basis is for its risk adjustment of our $30 per share all-cash offer, said the chairman, David Ellison, in an open letter he wrote to Warner Brothers Discovery. So it seems like he's trying to bypass Zaslav and them entirely and just talk to the shareholders and say, look, I'm good for you. I'm better than the $27.75 that Netflix is offering you per share. But now, of course, Trump is getting involved in this as well. Trump posted a One America News article on Truth Social. See, if he would just post on X, he could get more traction rather than having to post it on Truth and have everybody from like Trump's War Room post it on their Twitter accounts. He posted an article called Stop the Netflix Cultural Takeover, slamming the deal as an ideological power grab by a woke media monopoly. The article accuses Netflix of seeking to consolidate unprecedented cultural power by acquiring Warner Brothers Discovery, home to iconic brands like, of course, DC Comics, HBO, and Harry Potter. The message, if Netflix controls the assets, it could become the most dominant cultural gatekeeper in history, able to rewrite characters, retell history, and redefine social norms, and control which ideas reach an audience. I don't even necessarily disagree with him, but I saw kind of, I guess what I would frame is like what felt like a coordinated push, where it felt like influencers were then posting about Netflix and Obama out of nowhere, even though there were no stories about Obama that really jived with the news in the moment, because Obama's had a Netflix deal for years. Everybody knows about that. He makes a bunch of stuff that doesn't really end up meaning a whole lot to a lot of people.
No one wants to see.
It's like Meghan Markle, right?
I was just thinking, yeah.
Like, and that's what it is. But they're like, I don't remember who made the post. He's like, they've never made anything criticizing Barack Obama. And I was like, okay, well, that's one person that they haven't criticized. And I'm sure, with his, I don't know how much his deal with Netflix gives him an ear into the CEO over there. But Ted Sarandos met with Trump prior to them making that bid for Netflix. And Trump was basically like, we'll have to wait and see, but I feel like they could face regulatory pressure. But that's going to happen on either side of things now because consolidation is bad. And whatever his thoughts on this are, the consolidation is a bad idea. Now, I do believe that if it had to go to one of these companies, I would rather it go to Paramount, who seems more dedicated to the idea of theater releases. I said from the beginning, I said, they're going to lie. Netflix is going to lie. They're going to tell you, oh, we're going to leave it alone. It's going to be its own thing. It's going to run. Everybody knows that that's what every corporate raider says right before they gut the company, right? And within like a week, there was like an article that said, now to be fair, a rumor from an insider saying that they would be committed to like a 17-day window, not the traditional 45-day window for movies, which means that they want to do the one thing everybody's terrified of. They want to bypass the theater system, which is symbiotic with Hollywood. They need the theaters for relevance. They can say that they don't, but they do. Like, Stranger Things notwithstanding, if something wants a certain amount of cultural relevance, theater releases are still the way to go.
Right. And I think that, I think that is a concern. The fact that the theater experience is becoming just less and less relevant. And I guess maybe there's an inevitability to that, but it is going to be a sad day when we get to the point where going to the movies is just not, already a lot of people don't like going to the movies, but going to the movies is just not a culturally significant experience. And so I'm with you on that. And look, people can say, well, it's just the same thing if you stream it at home, but it really isn't. It really isn't. It's not the same experience as seeing something on a big screen with the big sound, and you're not distracted, or you shouldn't be, by being on your phone the whole time. And it's just, it is a very different experience.
I watched several movies over the weekend. I watched Equilibrium. I watched, which I hadn't seen in years. I watched Some of All Fears because Patriot Games wasn't on any of the streaming services. And I watched Good Will Hunting. Now, Good Will Hunting, sure, I can watch that at home and probably get the same experience that I would have, anywhere. But to watch Some of All Fears or Equilibrium, both of those movies would have been enhanced by seeing them in a theater, immersed in a large screen with amazing sound design. Like I'm watching it at home and like the way the sound design, because I'm watching on like a Roku TV and I don't have a sound bar, and I'm like, I have to have the captions on because the action scenes are so loud and the dialogue scenes are so quiet. Both of those movies would have been enhanced like tenfold by going to the theaters. And I would say that if they released Top Gun Maverick on Paramount Plus, it doesn't end up having the cultural relevance that it had because they released it in theaters. I do still believe if Sydney Sweeney had released Anyone But You, or even now The Housemates, straight to streaming, it wouldn't have been the success that it is by getting a theater release.
Right. And it's not just the theater release itself, but it's everything that comes along with it, the big, premiere and all the lead up. I mean, I know that you can hold premieres for even streaming releases, but it's just not the same. So, it's the theater experience, but it's also everything that accompanies that.
I agree. I want to see, again, I don't think that there's an answer that anybody's going to like in this. I don't want it to go to either of these companies. As much as I would prefer Paramount to do so, I would rather Warner Brothers remain its own company and be able to create its own stuff, but that doesn't seem to be the path going forward. All right. So I'm going to read this super chat here now because it leads into our next topic. This is from Corey Anderson. He says, Colonel, if that is your real name, do you hate dogs like Mary? I don't think Mary hates dogs.
Mary hates dogs?
I don't think Mary hates dogs.
Well, I'm going to tell you, actually, I wouldn't use the term hate, but I should say, generally speaking, I'm not a dog fan. And here's the thing. I'm a huge cat lover, and I like my personal space to be respected. And also there's just a frightening aspect to larger dogs that puts me off. And maybe it's because growing up, my dad, we only had hunting dogs and they were pretty rough, and, we kept them outside. And so I don't have that personal experience of like a sweet indoor dog or whatever. But I'll tell you, for me, it's not about hating dogs. It's actually about hating some dog owners, because and I'm sorry if I'm stepping on toes out there, but there are a number of dog owners that are very, very insensitive about the way that their dog might be perceived by others. I hate it, for example, when I'm walking around outside and there are unleashed dogs that are charging at me. Now, in some neighborhoods, this might be less of an issue, but where I was living previously, there were a lot of people who didn't have their dogs on leash. I actually got bitten. It wasn't a big deal, but I got bitten a few times in my prior neighborhood. Okay. I don't like it when people take their dogs on walks and they don't have them leashed, and the dog will charge at you. Even if it's a friendly charge, the dog will charge at you, and then the owners will laugh and they'll say, "Oh, he's harmless." And I want to be like, I don't know if this dog is harmless. You don't know if this dog is harmless. This is an animal, completely unpredictable. And so that is really annoying to me. Also, I'm sorry, but I don't like the way that dogs smell. Lots of times, if you go into the home of a dog owner, indoor dog or a dog that's allowed indoors, there is this musky, nasty smell. And also dogs, they like to stick their noses in your crotch. And some people that might be appealing, but it's not appealing to me. And so my issue is not so much with dogs, but with the way that some dog owners seem oblivious to the fact that maybe not all of us love dogs, and maybe some of us are kind of uncomfortable or even scared of dogs. And so that's what I have more of an issue with. And so I wouldn't say that I hate dogs. I would just say, though, that I don't find them generally appealing. And I am very put off by the fact that some dog owners are oblivious to to that. It's the same thing with some people who have children. There are some people who are oblivious seemingly to the way that their children behave in public, or the fact that maybe not everybody is okay with your kid, screaming their head off on a plane or whatever, right? I know kids have to travel just like everyone else, but it seems to me that when some people have children, or when they have dogs, they have this delusion that everybody else must think that their kids or their dogs are as awesome as they do. And we do not.
Okay. So, we got a 20 here from Pop Culture Junkie. Says, lurking in the background is a potential brew, haha. If the Ellisons win and try to merge CBS and CNN, run by the controversial new CBS News chief Barry Weiss, the traditional media will pitch a fit. Trump would love it. I mean, but the thing is like, have you seen, like, Trump himself came out and said, like, he wasn't a fan of the new regime over at 60 Minutes, and he was kind of throwing shade there. Now, I know that's Trump's that's his game plan. He loves to lob grenades wherever he may find them and see what happens. But I do think that you're probably right to an extent that he would get a kick out of that, if for nothing more than the media whinging.
Yeah, I think so. And with Trump, it's often hard to know if he's totally serious in what he's saying, or if he's just, like you said, getting a kick out of a certain amount of turmoil that's going on in the legacy media or so forth.
Okay, so back to my point about the dogs. This is why we asked Colonel Kurtz her opinion on dogs. Right now, Jennifer Lawrence seems to be trying to create the biggest PR scandal she could possibly create for herself, because these are all the headlines that I am seeing as of late. And we talked about this a little bit on the show yesterday, but I still thought it was interesting to talk about. Jennifer Lawrence says that she sees dogs as a threat after one bit her son, and basically said, like, she sees all of them as a threat now because she's gone into hyper mama bear mode. She's like the anti-John Wick. She's like the John Wick in reverse. Jennifer Lawrence gave her dog to her parents after she welcomed her children. She is not risking having another dog as a pet after an unfortunate incident with her son, Cy. On Wednesday, January 7th, following a screening of her new film, Die My Love, the Hunger Games star revealed that she was inclined to give Princess Pippi Longstocking, the dog she adopted in 2017, to her parents once she had children. Lawrence, who shared her two sons, Cy, and a second baby born in November of 2024, born in 2024, with husband Cook Maroney, I don't even know who that is, stated during the talk that the dogs became so scary for her. It's almost like I don't recognize dogs right now. Like I just see them as a threat, she said. One of them bit my son, and they made me just want to obliterate every dog. Like how was her PR person not pulling her off camera as she said this? I'm like, I'm going to take out you and your effing family and your friends. I'm going to go to China and take care of your friends over there. Anybody who looks like you is dead, she added. You know what the first thing I thought of when I saw this was, and I'm not even kidding you? Do you remember that controversy a couple years ago where Liam Neeson said that like a relative of his was attacked by like a black individual, so he went walking the streets looking for black people that he could get into a fight with? I was like, who the fuck is who is this dude's publicist letting this like dude say this out loud in public? And he got in, and everybody was pissed. And then eventually he like quasi apologized on an episode of Atlanta. Like that was the first thing I thought of. She's out here, and I guarantee you there are plenty of dog lovers who are just as diehard about it as anybody.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't a great PR move. I guess maybe she just doesn't care. Maybe this is just her going off script. You know what I was thinking of too is the trouble that Kristi Noem got into with her unnecessary admission in her book, or bragging actually, that she took a difficult dog out, the family dog, and shot it, right? Proof
that your career apparently can survive the Twitter news cycle. Because I saw that, I'm like, oh, she's done. Like, why would you write that in your book? Like, even if you have a justifiable answer, because what did she say? It was like a hunting dog, and it wasn't. Like, even if you have an answer in your head that's somehow justifiable to you, there are some things you just don't need to share with the world.
Yeah, that was totally unnecessary. I don't know if she thought that, I know she tried to reframe it after the controversy, as it shows that she was willing to make the tough decisions that were needed. I don't know if that's why Trump nominated her to head up ICE or something.
There's a $20 super chat here from Corey Anderson. He says, that is a politician answer, but I agree. There are no bad dogs, only bad owners. If you bathe your dogs regularly, they don't have that musty smell. Colonel, you would love my dog, Barley. He is the sweetest and is very personable.
Well, we will see. I've heard that before.
So on top of all that,
Point taken.
I'm sitting here like, how is her publicist letting her say this? Are they just trying to make her life more difficult than it needs to be? Which maybe that's what it is. Maybe she's like, hey, to my publicist, just let it go. We're gonna weather this storm. But she's kind of gone the opposite direction lately, because she's been one of those people where she's like, I'm not gonna talk about politics anymore. Like, she's like, it divides the fan base. I'm not going to talk about politics anymore. So she pivots to I hate dogs. That is crazy work. There's a $20 super chat here from Richard. Is it Navarez? $20. Thank you so much. No message on that one. So she's trying to make her life more difficult for herself. And then there was this article, because people weren't just pissed about those comments. They were pissed because she chose to rehome the dog that she had already had. Fans quickly jumped online to criticize the Hunger Games actress after that she joked that she wanted to obliterate every dog. Here's the thing. When you post this shit online.
Yeah, obliterate every dog.
When you post this shit online, and it's just the transcript of some podcast you did, it will never be looked at that way by anyone. You have to assume that everything you say will end up being taken out of context, because there are no tonal indicators that will properly convey what you were trying to say in the moment.
Right.
So they were saying, you don't jump your dog, says you don't dump your dog just because you had kids. You learn to teach your kids to respect your pet. Wow, one Instagram user commented under a clip of the chat shared by E! News. I really don't like her now. See?
Well, when she said rehome, do we know if that meant that she found a friend or a relative?
Her parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't since childhood, I haven't had a dog. And so I don't know how traumatic that experience is. I mean, maybe the parents were able to offer just as good of an environment, and the dog loved the parents and whatever. I mean, I'll say this, it is a difficult quandary if you feel like there are legitimate safety concerns related to your child. And I do think, given the choice between protecting my child or putting the dog through a little emotional pain and discomfort, not dumping it in a shelter or whatever, but rehoming it, I think that's a defensible position. I mean, but I don't know why she was so extreme as to talk about her feelings about obliterating all dogs and all of that. Like that's a bridge too far.
You know what I think it is? I really do believe that everybody who works in the mainstream media that interviews these celebrities secretly hates them and wants to drag out of them the quote that they know will end up ruining their career. Maybe not ruining it, but they're like, look, I don't know if I could take this lady out, but I think that I could make her life real difficult for a couple of weeks if I just get her to say the right thing.
Well, and they know, yes, and they know also that it's going to get clicks and views. And so, I mean, that's if they can elicit or draw out a comment like that, then they know that interview or that podcast or whatever, it's going to get a lot more views and clicks.
One light that will not change. I love that. I'm gonna have to figure that out at some point. There's like one light on one of the guest cams that just doesn't change. Another user said, "Yikes!" Oh man, when the liberal white women start saying "yikes" to you, you are screwed. Yikes! Another netizen responded, expressing their shock. I loved her. This is so disappointing. I hope people don't think that this is normal behavior.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely didn't do her any favors. She sounds to me kind of irritable about it, almost like maybe she's faced some private resistance from people in her life to this philosophy, because it sounds like she's almost kind of angry.
Yeah. Another one says, I have twins and my dogs are family forever. We are a pack together, a home full of love, respect, and loyalty, and time dedicated to all. And then they hit him with this: do better, Jennifer. That's the worst. When somebody tells you to do better, your instinct should be to do worse. If somebody tells you to do better, your automatic instinct should be to go the opposite direction and do whatever the opposite of what they're telling you to do is. Others took issue with the actress's choice of words, like one commenter who slammed her awful statement. What's especially concerning is using a massive platform not only to normalize giving up a dog after a preventable incident, but to publicly speak so flippantly about obliterating dogs. Another wrote, taking issue with her tone and her choice of words.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely was unnecessary and excessive. And so I got to wonder what was going on in her head there. But she's popped off before about other things, and she's gotten in some hot water before too, hasn't she?
Is she
Jennifer
the
Lawrence?
one making the Muppet movie? Or was that somebody else? There's somebody making a new Muppets movie coming out. I think that might be her. I think she's going to appear in the next Hunger Games movie as well, because they're doing like another...
They're doing another one?
I think it's like a prequel or a sequel or a spin-off of some of the other characters. Believe it or not, I'm not the target demographic for your average Hunger Games movie. That's not me, but you get what I'm saying. So, look... Jennifer Lawrence was just looking to make her life more difficult for herself and more difficult for her publicist, and I appreciate that. Or maybe what happened is she hired a new publicist and she wanted to break her in by creating controversy and seeing how she handles it. I would appreciate that.
I mean, could be. It could be. I don't know. Or maybe she's just having some psychological issues.
I mean,
I'm not sure.
That's kind of what it is with Hollywood too. Is for a lot of them, like, you don't really have a choice, and you have to live in the public eye, and you don't really have a choice other than to say when you're going through things. I think the instinct for anybody who's got a certain level of self-preservation is to just shut up and keep it to yourself. But they don't really have that instinct because their whole image is to be broadcast forward on camera.
Right. And I also think, too, that celebrities, they're so used to living in a bubble of adoration in terms of everyone they meet, everywhere they go, that I think that they do lose sight of how sort of tenuous the public's adoration is. And so they don't realize when they're making these comments, they think, oh, well, everybody always laughs at every joke that I make and they nod at everything that I say and everyone thinks I'm wonderful. And so they sort of lose touch with the fact that no, you can't say anything that you want and not receive some blowback. Hold on one second. I'm going to shut the door here because I'm hearing someone next door.
So I think what we can do then, guys, this is the best part of this show, right? So everybody can dunk on Jennifer Lawrence. Everybody can dunk on whether or not what she said is actually going to get her in trouble. I don't think it will. I think her career will be just fine. I just thought the whole thing was kind of funny. But we love the pets here at Pop Culture Crisis. So today, for Pop Culture Crisis's Cute of the Day, we are going to feature a dog, which a lot of people make the point a lot of times that this is a predominantly cat show, and a lot of the audience does submit their cats to the show. But today, Sorenko Productions sent us this one. Here are some cute pics of Luna that I took while I was back home for Christmas. And Luna looks very happy.
Oh, that is a pretty dog.
That is a very cute dog. Napping. Eating. Oh. I could have featured more of our cats because I provide, we have, Nepo kitties at our house. They always get to skip the line and shown. But today we will celebrate the cute dogs. And right there, Luna is a very cute puppy.
Well, while we're on the subject, before we move on briefly of dog hate, I have to say that I, as a cat lover, longtime cat lover, I get so tired of conservatives dissing women who have cats. I understand that they're making a point about the fact that the cats should not, in their opinion, be a replacement for having children. Now, I'm childless by choice and will continue to be so. So that's a whole other discussion to have. But I really wish that let's just not denigrate any pets. All right, let's leave the dogs alone. Let's leave the cats alone. Live and let live. Enough.
Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of the that's kind of like the barometer that they always use is you're going to end up alone with cats.
Sounds like a great life.
It's kind of like we talk about this all the time, which is like most people in these spaces, they have the same comebacks for when they want to insult somebody online. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it isn't, but it's more it's a mask for a lack of creativity. There's so many funnier ways to insult someone. But I guess the other go-to would be you'll be alone with your cats and a box of wine.
Well, I'm not a wine drinker, but if I have my cat on my deathbed with me. It sounds like a good way to go out.
Okay. All right. There is more to get into today, guys. So again, I put up a poll before this episode got started. I wanted you guys to let me know whether you believe this episode is going to get demonetized. The reason this gets brought up is because for the last several days, at least since Saturday, I've been covering the story of actor Timothy Busfield. He was on The West Wing. That was how my wife Olivia knew him. I knew him from the movie Little Big League. He played Lou Collins, who was one of the main characters. Billy Haywood, of course, being one of the most unlikable main characters in history. Doesn't matter. I still love that movie. And the problem with loving an actor's work, the problem with growing attached to the things that they put out, is because oftentimes it's not just the case where you don't want to meet your heroes because they end up being a jerk online. No, it ends up being oftentimes much, much worse than that in Hollywood. Of course, actor Timothy Busfield has been charged and is currently being looked for by police officers over crimes against minors, which means that this episode is already demonetized. And what you can see right here, U.S. Marshals join the search to locate West Wing actor Timothy Busfield following child SA allegations. The U.S. Marshal Service has joined the hunt to locate Timothy Busfield after a warrant was issued for the actor's arrest in New Mexico in connection with child SA charges. The Albuquerque Police Department confirmed that its investigators are working with U.S. Marshals with the U.S. Marshal Service to track down the West Wing actor's whereabouts and take him into custody in connection with the disturbing allegations. Yes, so this was reported on Friday night. So this warrant was issued before the weekend even started. And I was kind of, when I covered this story, I thought perhaps he was meeting with his lawyers to surrender, to turn himself in, which is oftentimes something that you do if you want to avoid something really bad happening when you're being arrested. And certainly for somebody of means and wealth, that seems to be the best way to do so if you want to speed the process along and ensure that you get, that your civil liberties are not trampled upon.
I actually think the best approach is to drive down the LA freeway in a Ford Bronco with your best friend leading a low-speed police chase. But that's just me.
Well, that would certainly lead to iconic photos that would end up becoming. So beyond this, guys, again, I've covered this extensively. You should go watch those videos. Basically, the allegations are that during the 2022 series, The Cleaning Lady, starring Elodie Young, she was in Daredevil. It was a director on that show, and he was accused of inappropriately touching minors. Then it came out later that apparently they may have had a relationship with these children outside of the television show. His wife, Melissa Gilbert of Little House on the Prairie, was at the very least aware of this investigation because she was on a call with the Albuquerque Police Department with her husband when all of these claims were coming out. And this was at the time when she was talking about the evils of child trafficking and child abuse in Hollywood, talking about the 8-year age gap between her and her co-star on Little House on the Prairie. She was 15. He was 8 years older than her when they were filming that series. This was all in conjunction with the Epstein files and Trump. They were using it. A lot of people are kind of saying as a way to virtue signal, which would be unbelievably ridiculous if knowing what was going, it's almost like you have no sense of consequence of what could come out in future, or you just have such a high belief in your own ability to avoid consequences that you can say something like that and not have it come back to bite you when these stories inevitably come out. But
are you saying that when she was making these comments about the evils of child abuse and exploitation in the industry, that she already was aware that her husband was facing allegations?
Yes. They had already had their conversation with law enforcement because initially what happened was Albuquerque, like doctors in Albuquerque had reported the potential abuse. And then law enforcement got involved. Initially, they refused to press charges. Then a formal complaint was lodged to Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers got involved, ran their own investigation. Now, of course, begrudgingly is working with law enforcement because they pushed the can down the road on this extensively. They kept delaying it. They kept delaying giving the police department any information because, as we know, these companies don't seek to help anybody. They seek to protect their business and to prevent themselves from losing money. So morality isn't really part of it for them. And so they originally had a discussion with law enforcement over the phone, basically an original interview with Busfield, and his wife was on that call.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you explain that except to say that she must, or at that point, she must have just totally believed her husband. And of course, who knows what he's telling her. And of course, we don't, again, we don't know the
Yes.
absolute truth of the situation. But denial in these situations can be really strong. Or she has a long marriage with this man and she believes that she knows him. But I do agree though that if you know that there are allegations percolating that could come out, even if they're false, even if you believe they're false, it seems like it's not wise to then yourself make proclamations about child exploitation in the industry.
The investigation involves twin boys who were actors on The Cleaning Lady, in which Busfield was a director. One of the boys told an investigator last fall that Busfield had touched his, quote, private areas when he was 7 years old and again when he was 8 years old on set. According to the Albuquerque police affidavit, the boys said that they were very afraid of Tim and were relieved when he was off set. The West Wing and Field of Dreams actor directed 6 episodes of The Cleaning Lady, which aired on Fox between 2022 and 2025. According to the affidavit, Busfield spoke to police by phone in November. And were asked if he had, quote, any physical contact with the boys and if he had picked them up and tickled them. Timothy said that it was highly likely that he would have in the affidavit. He said that the boys' parents were around and it would not be weird. He later said that he did not recall picking those boys up. So he changed his story on all of this. And he says, I don't remember those boys, he said. No, I don't. I don't actually. I don't remember it. If it happened, I don't remember overtly tickling them. And they said, almost in a form of parody, that he told them to call him Uncle Tim.
Yeah, it reminds me of the scandal years ago with the Seventh Heaven actor. Was his name David Collins?
The star of the show, right?
Yeah, who played the pastor, and
Yeah.
it had such a wholesome image. And he ended up admitting, or there were, well, first of all, there were tapes, recordings from marital counseling that were leaked by someone, in which he had admitted to sexual contact with children. And then he actually, in an attempt to do damage control, he did an interview himself in which he had admitted some of these episodes from the past, but claimed that they were well in the past, and also bizarrely tried to claim that they were almost semi-consensual. And we're talking about children here. We're not talking about the sort of gray area of older teenagers or something, right? And so his career was completely shattered. He actually ended up marrying a woman that he had, I believe, met when she was a teenager. So anyway, it reminds me of, that situation where you have these people with these really clean-cut, wholesome public images, talking about Melissa Gilbert, right? And then it turns out that there were these predatory, disturbing behaviors underneath.
It really does feel like, look, 20 years ago, maybe a parent could be forgiven for not knowing what they were getting their kids into by getting them involved in Hollywood. But now there's almost no excuse for a parent not to be as involved as possible, if not outright just preventing them from getting involved in Hollywood for the sake of their own children's safety. They should be involved in every aspect that they can, because there's no excuse now to not know how awful Hollywood is in their treatment of minors. I'm going to read you the statement from Warner Brothers. You'll be moved by the emotional nature of these words. It says, quote, the health and safety of our cast and crew is always our top priority, especially the safety of minors on our productions, Warner Brothers TV said in a statement. We take all allegations of misconduct very seriously and have systems in place to promptly and thoroughly investigate and, when needed, take appropriate action. We are aware of the current charges against Mr. Busfield and will continue to cooperate with law enforcement. According to the affidavit, Warner Brothers conducted an investigation in 2025 after SAG-AFTRA received an anonymous complaint about a separate incident in December of 2024. The complaint alleged that Busfield had kissed a boy on the face and in a hair and makeup trailer, and that he would tickle and caress the heads of boys. Warner Brothers contracted with an outside investigator who is not able to substantiate that claim. Albuquerque police detective Marvin Brown alleged in the affidavit that Warner Brothers made it very difficult difficult to obtain information for this case. The detective obtained a search warrant to get a copy of the investigative report, but it was not turned over until 3 months later. So they just kicked the can down the road. I wonder, look, I don't know the timeline on all this, but if they were looking to sell Warner Brothers Television is a branch of that division, might be good to push this off and make it very, very hard for this stuff to come out if you're looking to sell your company.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't think that it would have that much of an effect on a merger, but it could be. Now, are the parents of these boys, are they suing? Are they trying to get a monetary payout as well, or is this strictly criminal?
This is criminal from what I've seen.
Right,
this is
right,
like,
right.
again, that was where my questions would come in, is if this was monetary. And that's what, so basically Busfield said that he believes that this was retribution because they recast the boys in later seasons. And my thought was like, he's the director. He's not the writer. He's not the head of creative. He's a director, and a television director is ostensibly like a line cook. Like their job is to shepherd forward the writers and showrunners' vision and get it done quickly and under budget. He's not, unless things are very, very different from what I've always understand television to be. A guy who directed 6 episodes of a series isn't making those types of creative
They don't have
decisions.
that kind of creative control.
So that seems like BS. He alleged, said when the detective reached out to other child actors on the show to ensure their safety, he was advised by Warner Brothers that he would have to go through lawyers to talk to employees in the affidavit. When Busfield joined the series, he grew closer to the boys, it said. It was reported that Timothy would tell the children to call him Uncle Tim. And then, so beyond that, in another thing that feels almost beyond parody, NBC pulls Law and Order SVU episode featuring Timothy Busfield. Because of course it was an SVU episode. Because we're living in a simulation. Or at least sometimes it feels like we're living in a really, really awful simulation. Variety has confirmed that the broadcast network has shelved the episode, which was set to air on January 15th. Instead, NBC will air the SVU episode originally scheduled to air on January 22nd. Busfield was set to play a judge in the now pulled episode, which was titled Corrosive. He previously guest starred in the long-running series in 2011 and directed 2 episodes in 2019. It was reported recently that the arrest warrant was issued for Busfield. And we know what's going on right now. He is not, at least not as of 2 p.m. when I last checked on this story, he has not been located. So, absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it's gosh, and I feel bad for Melissa Gilbert. I mean, we talked about her irrationality or tone deafness in the fact that she knew that these allegations might be coming, and she was still, talking about child exploitation online and stuff. But I do feel sorry for her. And
she has since deleted her social media. Yeah,
well. It's a bad situation, and I hope that that if he is guilty, then they get justice.
Well, no, because the other things that I was hearing people saying was that the both of them knew these children, and people are now framing it as if she was helping cover this up. I don't know whether that's true or not. I know that Megyn Kelly has since got involved because Megyn Kelly was the one that Melissa Gilbert was talking about when she was talking. Basically, they were saying that Megyn Kelly downplayed the severity of the Epstein victims when they were talking about Trump, and she is now coming out and talking a lot about Melissa Gilbert because of the connection that she made with her prior. Because of Melissa Gilbert basically shaming her while knowing that her husband was under investigation.
Yeah. And I thought that Megyn Kelly was unfairly maligned with that, because I do think, and like I get shit for this at times online, but I do think there is a discussion to be had about the nuances of older teenagers. Not that predation is okay, but I do think that historically speaking and biologically speaking, it was understood that a teenager, particularly an older teenager, was not anywhere near the same thing as a child. And so I recognize the point that Megyn Kelly was trying to make, and not saying that Epstein wasn't a predator or what he was doing was okay, but I thought that the point that she was trying to make was not one that was wrong to at least be throwing out there and discussing. I'm surprised, that we don't hear more of these kinds of stories, because I do think that abuse of children has got to be pretty prevalent in Hollywood even now.
Well, I mean, I think that with stories like this, when they come out, a lot of times it's years later, and they don't get the same level of they don't get taken seriously, because a lot of times they're tied to either monetary payouts when there's no legal recourse. But the reason I think people are going to take this more seriously is they have gone through legal recourse. They're looking for him to go to jail. It's not something about a court payout.
Right.
Now, that could come down the line. Obviously, civil suits end
right.
up being a huge part of these types of cases, right? OJ lost the civil suit after the fact, because the threshold for proof of crime is so much, proof of responsibility is so much lower for the civil payouts. Right. But for something like this, it's just like it reinforces the worst idea people have of what Hollywood is as an organization, which is, just the other day, we have the Golden Globes going on, and they're tripping over themselves to talk about Renee Good and to talk about whatever political cause of the day they want a virtue signal about, while knowing that this type of stuff is going on in their industry. And it's not to say that everybody's job is to talk about every issue, but they don't have a leg to stand on when they're not willing to call it out in their own business.
Right. Yep. Agreed.
All right. That was depressing, and I am sure you guys are now as thoroughly depressed as I am, but we will move on and get on to the next story, because this one we kind of learned about yesterday, and we were gonna talk about it. We decided to wait. I would be interested to hear everybody's perspective, so you should put it in the comments below. Mattel has decided to add to their line, it's called the Fashionistas line, of diverse dolls, where they before had before this they had a doll specifically dedicated to Down syndrome, literally Down syndrome Barbie. They have now added the first ever Autistic Barbie. It comes complete with a fidget spinner, a tablet for communication, noise-canceling headphones, and I kid you not again, bendable elbows and wrists for stimming. Your thoughts?
I guess so. I guess the intention here is to show autistic kids, or I guess it's mostly girls, are gonna be playing with Barbies, but autistic kids, that give them representation. So like, look, even Barbies have your problem. I mean, it just seems like a lot of politically correct BS to me, honestly. And I think, I get tired of all of this. And also, I understand that that autism is a terrible affliction. More and more kids are being diagnosed with it. It's something that is more and more prevalent in society. But I'm just not sure if we want to have Barbie dolls that are now designed and developed according to medical or psychiatric problems. I mean, are we going to have an anorexic Barbie, or it's just, I mean, it's like, come on.
Well, I'm gonna read you their press release so you can get an idea where they're coming from. I actually think, speaking purely from a capitalist business sense, I think that Mattel is genius, and I think that they know exactly who their target demographic is, and it is not children with disabilities. I think their target demographic is moms that have children with disabilities who they know will buy these even if the kids don't have a desire to play with them. But this is from the the press release. It says, Barbie introduces the first autistic Barbie doll, championing representation for children through play. They unveiled today its first ever autistic Barbie doll, created with the guidance from the autistic community to represent common ways in which autistic people may experience, process, and communicate about the world around them. This doll invites more children to see themselves represented in Barbie. Developed for more than 18 months in partnership with the ASAN, I believe that stands for, I have it here, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network. a nonprofit disability rights organization run by and for autistic people that advocates for the rights of the autistic community. This doll joins the Barbie Fashionistas collection, which features the most diverse range of skin tones, hair textures, body types, and various medical conditions and disabilities. So you could be right there. Medical condition, like they could end up with drug addiction Barbie, or autism, or bulimic Barbie. Barbie has always strived to reflect the world kids see and the possibilities they imagine, and we're proud to introduce our first autistic Barbie as part of that ongoing work, said their head of dolls at Mattel. The doll, designed with guidance from the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, helps to expand that inclusion, what inclusion looks like in the toy aisle and beyond. Every child deserves to see themselves in Barbie. Now, I'm going to give you a description of how they worked with ASAN and what these actual differences are that separate this Barbie doll from other Barbie dolls. So it says, the body. The autistic Barbie doll features elbow and wrist articulation, enabling stimming, hand flapping, and other hand gestures that some members of the autistic community use to process sensory information or express excitement. Eye gaze. The doll is designed with an eye gaze shifted slightly to the right side, which reflects how some members of the autistic community may avoid direct eye contact. Accessories. Each doll comes with a pink finger flip fidget spinner, noise-canceling headphones, and a tablet. The fidget spinner, the doll holds a fidget spinner that actually spins, offering a sensory outlet that can help reduce stress and improve focus. Pink noise-canceling headphones rest atop the doll's head as a helpful and fashionable accessory that reduces sensory overload by blocking out any background noise. And a tablet, which is a pink tablet showing symbol-based augmentative and alternative communication apps on its screen, serving as a tool to help with everyday communication. Sensory sensitive fashions. The doll wears a loose-fitting purple pinstripe A-line dress with short sleeves and a flowy skirt that provides less fabric to skin contact. Purple shoes complete the outfit with flat soles to promote stability and ease of movement. The amount of thought that has gone into this is extensive.
Yeah, I'll say it is. Well, some of my viewers know that I actually suffer from a slight disability. I was born cross-eyed, and I had a couple of surgeries in my childhood to mostly correct it. But I still,
I didn't even know you could do that. You can fix, like, people say that to me all the time. They because mine are two things. Like, your eyes are so close together, they might as well be cross-eyed, or that I look cross-eyed. Sometimes they point out that they're two different colors, but usually it's that I'm cross-eyed.
Well, I've never thought of you as being in any way cross-eyed, but my I had a specific I have a specific disorder, but that was mostly corrected, a muscle imbalance, mostly corrected. But when I look a certain way, which I try not to do mostly, but you can see the cross-eyed. So I would like to have a cross-eyed Barbie to represent me.
I mean, they could do that. So there's this. This is the most diverse line of Barbies that you've got here. The first autistic Barbie, the first doll
Down syndrome.
with Down syndrome. Down syndrome was last year. 35 skin tones, 97 hairstyles, 9 body types and counting. The thing about it is, though, and this is what I mean when I say that they are geniuses. They know their target demographic. They absolutely know that the kids may or may not have an interest in these dolls. What they do know is overly protective moms will absolutely buy these dolls for their children. This is just capitalism run amok, guys.
Well, and what I don't like about this too is that I think it reinforces a message that society that society is going to totally accommodate you, whatever your particular issue is. And while, look, I don't like the idea of autistic people, being disabled people, suffering undue discrimination or being made fun of or whatever. But I also think that one of the important lessons that children need to learn in life is that there is a baseline of quote unquote normalcy that when you deviate from that, whether it's your fault or it's not, because you have, autism or a disease that is not of your own doing, when you deviate from that society is not going and cannot and should not totally accommodate you. That is just not reality. And I think that everyone in life, one of the aspects of our development in childhood and adolescence and in adulthood that's necessary is understanding that the world and other people are not going to and should not have to totally accommodate you. And so I think that it's not reinforcing. I think that it's a sort of an unfortunate reinforcement of the counter idea to have Barbies for every kind of affliction or psychiatric condition or medical condition, because all that's doing is reinforcing the idea that the world is going to accept and accommodate your deficiencies and your problems. And it's not, and nor really should it.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I think that you grow stronger when you accept that the world is not going to always give you what you want all the time, and that we actually grow as people when we learn to just deal with those hardships.
Exactly.
Now, again, like I'm not autistic. I have not gone through that. But it's like we've actually treated, in a lot of ways, autism has become a meme in American society, because now everybody thinks that every eccentricity that they have somehow means that they have some form of high functioning autism. They're like, oh, I like a hobby like a lot. And like I do like a lot of research into World War II. I must be autistic. When really, no, you're just driven and focused to something that actually interests you. And in a lot of ways, it's been turned into a bit of a comedy bit for a lot of people. One of the things that was getting posted about this, people started posting like fake pictures where they're like, no, this is what actual autism would look like if it was a Barbie, and it's got a completely different look to it. And I don't know if it's necessarily like, I'm gonna look at this story. I'm not if you're looking for somebody with like the hottest take ever who says like these need to be burned and this is awful and society's gonna collapse, I'm not the guy for you. I'm going to look right past this. All I see when I look at this is a very, very smart company that knows exactly what their target demographic wants to buy. Because remember, it's not the kids that pay the money for these dolls, which I believe they said that it's going to go for $11.87. And that sounds cheap to me. Like in today's day and age, $11 seems like cheap. Like it's expensive, but it seems cheap when you think about the brand recognition that Barbie has. $11.87 if you want to get them from Target. And if you want to know about the Down syndrome doll, which we did talk about at the time, it became like #1 on Amazon when it first came out, like what that means for long-term sales. I'm sure that these types of items are front-loaded, meaning that when they get bought right away, and then they kind of fade into the background, where the more classic toys end up doing better over a longer period of time. But it got them like 7.6 billion impressions on social media, which is exactly why they do it. And you can talk about whether that is cynical or not, but at the very least, I will say at least it's not a cash grab where they just put a doll, put its eyes to the side and released it. No, they clearly, at the very least, some activist group that's probably overfunded as it is, got their payday by getting to cooperate and well, I guess would be consult on the creation of these toys. So, you know, they're going to make a product that's going to make a ton of money, and I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, we will see.
I'm the pragmatist when it comes to these type of stories. I'm like, business wants to make money. They're just looking to fulfill another, especially when you think about what it means to be like a toy manufacturer today in an industry where more and more, from what I see, the toys aren't even made for kids anymore. Legos are made for adults now, every bit as much as they are made for kids, right? Build kits, things like that. Some people, like the Etsy crowd, loves those like miniatures that come in the ball that they collect and use for their own art and stuff like that. Toys have had to kind of grow and change in what they're meant for, because we live in a state of kind of permanent adolescence now, and a lot of people love them despite their age. It's not always about just being for kids. So these dolls aren't really meant for kids. I think they're meant for parents that, you know, your woke mom or maybe your woke aunt will buy this for you for the holidays next year.
Right. And I do think it speaks to an increasing infantilization of adults and adulthood in society. And I don't know, it's totally bad, or maybe in some ways it's okay. I don't know. But I do think, along with the lines of what you're saying, it speaks to that as well. So I don't know. We will see. But I'm looking forward to cross-eyed Barbie.
I'm here for it. Like I would like that. Also, I would like, see, because I'm deaf in one ear. I have one leg that's slightly longer than the other, and my eyes are.
They need a Brett Barbie with all of your deformities.
Yes. So deaf in one ear, one leg that's longer than the other, two different color eyes. I want Brett Picasso Barbie that just looks like it's been cobbled together by clay because I'm so uneven.
Hey, I have an idea. What about a Ken doll that is bald and wears a beanie all the time?
We could do that. They could do that. And it can come with a combination of extra beanies that you can replace, so you can put more beanies on there. That'd be great. All right. We've got more stuff to get into today, guys. So, where do you go after Autistic Barbie? That is the question. Well, Stranger Things has come and gone. We covered both the initial hysteria around Conformity Gate, as many in the fan base who were not as happy as perhaps some of the casual fans were with the ending of the show started talking about how the ending wasn't really the ending. There was actually going to be another super secret ending. The 7th passed. That didn't come to be. Then they moved the goalpost. They said the actual final date for the super secret episode of Stranger Things will be on the 12th, which would coincide with the release of this documentary about the making of Stranger Things. Well, that date has come and passed. It did not happen. Shocking, I know. There wasn't a super secret episode of Stranger Things, but now people have discovered something in that documentary that has made them just a little bit upset. People found that the Duffer Brothers may have been using ChatGPT to write Stranger Things Season 5. Now, there was also claims at one point that they might have written a substandard series because one of them got divorced and their wife, apparently, there was these long-standing theories that their wife was ghost writing the show, and maybe that's the reason Season 5 wasn't as good as perhaps they thought it could be. But they noticed some ChatGPT tabs open because the audience, whenever you develop an audience that seems akin to like the QAnon crowd, they are eagle-eyed and they will find the smallest detail. They found ChatGPT tabs open, and now they're accusing them of using AI to write the show. And as I made a post yesterday, I wish it had pulled up, there's nothing Hollywood hates more now, at least the actors and the fans that love the actors. There's nothing they hate more than AI. I do believe that there is a brain worm that has infested every actor where they can't talk about AI without cussing. They're always like, fuck AI. Like they never have a clever take. And that's why I believe all stories around AI are bad right now, because they don't have any emotional distance from the material. They're writing out of fear rather than out of a desire to be creative, which is why any story that was actually written competently about AI happened 20 or 30 years ago, or 9 years ago, if you want to talk about, no, 10 years ago now, if we're going to talk about the end of Person of Interest, 15 years ago, if you want to talk about when the show started, but that's just my own bias speaking. How do you feel about, so say it's true, and they used ChatGPT to help with the show. Now, there's two paths you could go down there. One is, they're literally dumb, and they're like, help me write a paragraph, take these. It would be hilarious if they're like feeding in the character data that they wrote into ChatGPT to help write dialogue. I don't think that that's what's happening here. Likely what they were doing is using it to do research.
Yeah, I mean, do we even know what they were using it for? It could have just been something even personal. I mean, maybe the guy was writing a letter to, his girlfriend or whatever. It's like,
write me a sonnet in the voice of this person.
Yeah, but to your larger question, I mean, I think that it is an inevitability that it will be used more and more. I don't think that, based on what I've seen, AI is nearly to the point where it's producing interesting, it's generally producing interesting content. Like I see these videos that people will say, wow, look at this was totally AI produced. And I look at it, I'm like, yeah, it's a pretty shitty movie that you've done, or a pretty shitty segment you've done there, or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of I had the same attitude, when I used to teach college, and that was really at the beginning of the AI and ChatGPT. And I told my students, I was like, if you can produce something to my standards using AI, then I guess you're hacking the system effectively. So I don't have a problem with it, but I just would say I'm not sure. We don't know for sure that that's what they're doing.
I'm not gonna lie. The music, like the AI renditions of songs where they change the genre, like the music industry in a lot of ways is cooked as the generations change and connection with live artists become less and less common these days. Like the the case du jour is going to be like seeing a band live will end up being, it feels like that's what records will be like, like vinyl will be today, because some of the songs that are getting made that are rewriting these famous songs are unbelievable. And I'm not saying that that's good or bad. I don't pass judgment on it. I think a lot of them are pretty good. I did a video over the holiday break, over the Thanksgiving break, about a guy, he's not a real person, about an AI artist named Solomon Kane. Solomon Ray. Solomon Kane is a very different character. You should go watch the Solomon Kane movie with James Purefoy. Solomon Ray, who topped the gospel charts for a couple of days and was making this music that was like Christmas music. And if you're in your car listening, it doesn't sound it sounded like, the comments were basically like, it sounds like Chris Stapleton. But if you hear it in a grocery store, you're not going to know the difference. And eventually these labels are going to just start moving away from artists that cost them a fortune towards things that they can streamline and control. If you're expecting these very, very data-driven capitalist companies to really care about the artistic endeavor, I have a bridge to sell you.
No, they're going to do what's most cost effective, and they're going to do what is best for their bottom line. And there is a certain inevitability to the idea that AI will encroach more and more on human creativity and output. And so I can see where the anxiety comes from, for sure. I mean, it's same, with what we do, but I don't know. I say
I'm going to be replaced one day. Like, that's the thing. They're just going to put in AI Brett here to give you back my very, very lukewarm takes on pop culture, and will cost a fraction of my salary.
Yeah, probably so.
It'll cost $5 and whatever the internet connection is, and how can you compete with that?
Yeah, so I mean, we're inevitably going to, we're definitely heading to a post-labor society that people have talked about, where people will not be working anymore for the resources that they need to survive. And I think what's going to be rough is the transition. I mean, we'll get there, or society will get there. Eventually we'll come out on the other side, but what's going to be really, really rough is a terribly difficult transition of unemployment or underemployment for a lot of people until that.
Yeah. Big super chat here from Just Put a Towel Down, $50 with no message, the strong silent type.
All right.
Goodness, all that, and you don't even have anything you need to ask. That is, or share. That's amazing. Right. I did see this as well. It says in the bottom on this r/Stranger Things about the tabs, it says, wasn't season 5 filming delayed because of the writer's strike? That would be pretty ironic, considering that regulating AI is just one of the things that the Writers Guild of America is fighting for. And people are now, of course, mad about it. And then we got into this stuff about SAG-AFTRA's, their whole plan for AI performers. I don't know if anybody here heard about, I think we talked about it on the show, Tilly Norwood, the AI performer that's basically trying to be sold as like the next big thing. Duncan Crabtree Ireland, which sounds like a butler, but it's not. In Duncan Crabtree Ireland's world, Tilly Norwood would cost just as much as hiring a real actor. So, of course, the unions want to get involved and price fix everything and ruin it for everybody. Here's the thinking. A lack of cost savings could dissuade employers from using AI-generated performers instead of real actors like Emma Stone or Viola Davis. In my opinion, if synthetics, that's what they call them, by the way. It's like Blade Runner or a science fiction movie. They're calling them synthetics. If synthetics cost the same as a human, they're going to choose a human every time. I don't even know if I believe that. I don't even necessarily know if I believe that they're going to pick somebody who can't get in a car crash, can't speak out of turn unless programmed by somebody else. Like, we may reach a point in time where the cost-benefit analysis in a post-celebrity society, as we talk about now, lots of influencers, not a lot of actual movie stars left these days. Maybe they do just go the way of choosing Tilly Norwood over how about this? Oh, there we go. Crisis Party. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. Okay. So back to my hypothetical here. You're making your movie. you know? And you have two choices. You have Tilly Norwood, who, you know, in the future may or may not be a real thing. They might start hiring these actors to do these things. So you have Tilly Norwood, who's not going to say anything that, you know, you don't want her to, who's going to show up on time every day because she clocks in the second the animators start doing their work. Or you have Jennifer Lawrence, and she just said she hates dogs. And now you're like, oh, we're making Air Bud Part 5. Why is she talking shit about dogs?
I will say this, though, from the perspective of the executives and the studio honchos and everything, you do lose the casting couch with AI. I mean, Tilly Norwood is probably not going to be giving you sexual favors in exchange for being hired. So what I think is the next step will then be the sex robot merged with the creative capacities of AI, so that then you can use Tilly Norwood cheaply and she'll still have sex with you for the job.
Hollywood's like, look, we love saving money, but we love the casting couch more. So if that means we have to create AI sex dolls,
yes,
then you know what? I guess the studio goes under because it costs a fortune. Because we are not giving up. That's literally like, hi, I'm the studio executive, and I'm not giving up the casting couch. That's what he's going to say.
And by the way, for people who think that the casting couch is a thing of the past, it is definitely not. And you need only look at the controversy surrounding several years ago the actress Charlotte Kirk, who it came out, it was revealed, had been having sex with multiple executives and also directors in exchange for the promise of roles. And in fact, now she's engaged to Neil Marshall, the sort of exploitation film director. He did The Descent, one of my favorite horror movies, but she's engaged to him. And of course, he announced that he will only be making films with her from now on. So that was a successful casting couch. But she came out that she had had sex with multiple executives to try to and to get roles. And there was there were embarrassing text exchanges between her and Brett Ratner, where Brett Ratner had basically pawned her off onto an executive, and she'd had sex with the guy, and then she texts Brett Ratner and she's like, okay, I had sex with the dude, when am I getting the roles?
Oh man, it's like, and that's the funny thing is, I actually believe if there's one thing Hollywood does really, really well, and it's not a genre that I particularly love, but Hollywood is unbelievably good at satirizing themselves. They are unbelievably good at showing you the most egregious type of abusive producer, usually framed not as abusive.
Les Grossman from Tropic Thunder, right?
Exactly. So it's like they're very good at that, right? Or the ingenue actress who knows what she has to do to just get ahead, and they don't frame it as a form of coercion. They frame it as she knows what she wants and she'll do whatever she has to do to get it. And it was never framed in the past as some form of power imbalance or abuse of another. It was, this woman came from the Midwest and she was going to do whatever she needed to do to get ahead. And usually what that meant was entertaining a bunch of lecherous dudes who didn't have like a moral bone in their body.
Right.
That was the long and the short of it. People were not happy about this, of course, guys, because the fans of Stranger Things, I'm sure that the overlap between diehard Stranger Things fans and people that hate AI is it's a perfect circle. I have no doubt. This person says, what do you mean the Stranger Things documentary showing them writing the script on a computer with 3 ChatGPT tabs open, said one Blue Sky user? Well, that's all you needed to know. It was a Blue Sky user. It's not exactly where you go for rational discourse. One user asked, all this effing screenwriting advice telling you to go buy Final Draft or whatnot, and these mother effers on the multi-million-dollar Netflix cash cow using Google Docs and generative AI. Well, no, they were likely using it to ask, like somebody pointed out, they were probably like, what guns did the military use in the 1980s? Like they were using it as a search engine rather than as anything else. And even if you go to Google now, it's going to give you the AI overview anyways when you try to look something up. So,
right. That's true.
All of this, what it is, you're not going to win. AI is, like, you can talk about how AI as an industry is a bubble that's going to burst, but as far as the creative process, it's already being used. There's already been plenty of conversations had about all of the animators that are still working for Disney or these studios, they're basically being hired knowing that their work is going to be used to train AI and put them out of a job later. It is a shrinking... It is a ship that is going down slowly, and the best way to stay aboard would be to actually learn the technology, would be to learn how to use AI, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah, not much you can do about it. All right, guys, let's go to some super chats here. We got a bunch here, and I will scroll up to the top, and we will get through all of them here, guys. And thank you guys all so much for joining us today. If you are wondering where Mary is, which we are still getting questions about all the time, Mary is live with us Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Me and Mary are live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Kurtz is, I mean, we were planning to hopefully do every Tuesday. And, you know, the holidays were, of course, you know, turbulent for everybody, and we weren't live. Like I was going to go live that second week of the holiday break, and of course the mixer basically exploded, and I had to pre-record the rest of the week. It was a whole thing. But Mary will be back tomorrow, and she will be on the show on Friday, so have no fear, guys. Shane H. Wilder says, not so happy Taco Tuesday, Kurtz and Dasovic. Rest in peace to the legend Scott Adams. Dilbert and Dogbert are sad today. Yes. Corey Anderson says, for $2, says communists aren't people. Chief Corey Anderson also says, we already asked the question about dogs. He also mentions that this was a Half-Baked reference. Thank you. I need to rewatch Half-Baked, and I need to rewatch Waiting very soon. Username neither I nor Mary Reed says, wait until you smell a cat person's house. Well, I mean, that depends on how well they take out the litter box.
Yeah, I mean, I've smelled both, and I'd say the dog odor is much more permeating. Usually, the cat litters smell is pretty confined to the room that it's in. But I don't know. But that could just be I like the way cats smell. I don't like cat litter though per se. I have to say. Yeah. But yeah, the dog thing. I did break up with a guy one time because of his dog. Well, honestly, if I'd liked him more, then I probably would have overlooked that. But there was just
he was teetering on the line, and the dog.
He was on the line.
That's the same logic that people have. Like, if you lose a game, like if you play sports and you lose a game because of one bad call, it means you weren't good enough to secure the victory. For this guy, if he had been more of a catch, then maybe his dog wouldn't have been.
That's true. That is true.
All right. Corey Anderson adds, dogs are man's best friend because the dogs know that men do not get unconditional love. They're hold on, literally YouTube like crashed, and now I have to reload here.
Oh no.
That's exactly the type of timing I'm expecting here today. Thank you, YouTube. That was fantastic. Let me scroll back up and refine that one. All right. Dogs are man's best friend because the dogs know that men do not get unconditional love. Their wives and the dogs are there to provide that love. No periods there, so I went with everything. I read it as is. Oh, by the way, guys, so as you know, my reading is already abysmal. Today wasn't as bad as some days. Some days my reading is a train wreck. Today I would describe it as a small 2-car pileup rather than a train wreck. But what I did was, so on this monitor, which I don't know if you can see it from this. Yeah, you can see the monitor directly in front of me, which is smaller. I finally, after like 3 years, just raised the size of the of the text to 150% rather than leaving it as 100. So anytime I've ever had to read Superchats, I'm like this. And then they said this. So now I can actually read it from a distance, which is nice.
Aww.
Corey Anderson says, Brett, order a glitter mechanism to go off on Mary during the crisis parties. Also, tell Olivia the chat says hello, and we hope Vincent is warm. Well, I mean, I could order that for Mary, but I can't guarantee that she's going to set it up because I'm not there. As for Olivia, I will tell her hello, and we do hope Vincent is warm. If you don't know who Vincent is, we have where we live, there is an entire cadre of local cats that live around the neighborhood. Now, there are 2 named Bucket and Dusty, who live at a neighbor's house, but they're outdoor cats. They get to roam free in the neighborhood. And Bucket is basically king of the neighborhood. He gets, everybody loves him. He goes to every house and everybody gives him food. We all love Bucket. But there is a cat named Vincent who lives down at City Hall, and the local keeper of the neighborhood cats built him a house to keep him warm in the winter on the property. So Vincent, I am sure, is doing okay today. Corey Anderson says, I appreciate your support of Baldoni. I think he has lower T than an 80-year-old, is creepy, and shouldn't be trusted around children. However, I do believe he is innocent. Blake is a see you next Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, I probably more or less agree with your assessment there. So
yeah, if you look at and you know this case far better than I, but if you look at any of his emails to like people, he's like, I did like everything, and she like wouldn't do what I wanted, and I'm trying so hard, and it's just so difficult. Like they don't come off great. But the only other option would be for him to be hyper aggressive. Like,
well, I guess, or he could just be like normal people and find a happy medium there. Yeah, I mean, he definitely, and I think that's the reason why Baldoni had issues with Blake Lively that other people who have worked with her have not had. I'm not saying that she's not been problematic on other sets or that not been personality issues, but I think that the reason why she has gone so long in her career without this kind of craziness is because she found a guy that she, you know, these kind of people like Blake Lively and Amber Heard and others, you know, they're like animals. They can sense fear. They can sniff fear. They can sniff out weakness. And I hope that one of the things that Justin Baldoni has learned from this whole episode is that he needs to, pardon the sexist expression, but he does need to grow some balls. And when you, and I totally agree with your appraisal of his emails. And so I agree with you on that. And that these kinds of toxic dynamics, in a way, it does take two to tango. There's the person who is predatory and aggressive and abusive, but then there's also the person who allows it to happen.
Yeah. We have a $10 Rumble rant here. Thank you guys over on Rumble. From Half Baked Treehouse says, late as usual, but ensuring that everyone gets theirs. What makes this Barbie autistic? Is there a train in the box? That would only be if it was a male, if it was an autistic Ken, right? Men are the ones who get autistic interest in trains, not women. Am I wrong? Just
sure,
me, or
sure.
is the one Barbie that's heavy? He says that he believes that it's a little too attractive. Stay toxic, my friends. I don't know. If there is an autistic Ken, that one might come with a toy train set. We don't know. All right. Chief Corey Anderson says, Busfield has probably self-deleted. He was great in Nerds, though. My mind went to Richard Dreyfuss originally and was like, no, Dreyfuss is great. Well, no, as I learned from his next super chat I was wrong. Busfield has surrendered to police. Yes, he has. Yes. He has turned himself in. Perhaps we will cover this tomorrow, but I have it right here. It says Timothy Busfield surrenders to police, denies the abuse crimes in new video. So he recorded a video ahead of time, I guess, before this came out. He faces 2 counts, blah, blah, blah. The actor who was married to Melissa Gilbert, I don't know why that's so relevant to the start of this sentence, but the actor who was married to Melissa Gilbert and best known for his role as Danny Kincannon on The West Wing surrendered to police on Tuesday, January 13th. Busfield has turned himself in at the Metro Detention Center. He will be booked on his warrant, said Gilbert Gallegos, Director of Communications for the Albuquerque Police Department. He said it in a statement. He filmed a video obtained by TMZ, says, I did not do anything wrong. Hi, everybody. It's Tim. The video began. I'm sure most of you know that are watching this, that I was ordered to come to Albuquerque. I'm here now. I got the call Friday. I had to get a lawyer. Saturday, I got in the car, drove 2,000 miles to Albuquerque. I'm going to confront these lies. They're horrible. They're all lies, and I did not do anything to those little boys, and I'm going to fight it. I'm going to fight it with a great team, and I'm going to be exonerated. I know I am, because that is all so wrong and all lies. He concluded by saying, so hang in there, and hopefully I'm out real soon and back to work. I love everybody for supporting me. Thank you. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll wait and see. We can only wait and see on that one.
Right.
Brian Bledsoe says, if Jennifer Lawrence should show up at the Oscars with a Michael Vick jersey, she's definitely being set up by her PR team. No. In my head canon, she's testing out. She's doing quality control. Testing her PR team to failure by seeing just how much bad press they can fix for her by first making her comments about dogs and then by choice wearing the Michael Vick jersey to the Oscars. All right, Corey Anderson says the lead singer of Eve 6 is Stephen Collins' nephew. I did not know that. Stephen Collins is the guy from
Seventh Heaven.
Shane H. Wilder says, what's next? Down syndrome Cobra Commander and post-op He-Man? This can't be for kids. Yes, like I said, I don't think it's for kids. I think it's made for the moms of the children. Corey Anderson says, I use AI for emails. Maybe they were doing that. Could be. Corey Anderson also said he's got a slew of these here. He says, did you see Clavicular called out Sophie Rain? No, I did not. Have you followed Clavicular, the Looks Maxer?
I have not.
No? Okay. He also says Tom Cruise should have gotten an Oscar for Les Grossman.
Yeah, that was a great role. That was a great, Tom Cruise, he's gotten a lot of shit over the years for the Scientology stuff, which again, I'm not an endorser of Scientology, but I respect the fact that he's just kept on producing great work and great movies, and he's hung in there, and he got over that bad PR.
Yep. I'm putting him here. He's down in the lower corner of the screen.
Oh, look, he got so much, to those who remember, he got so much shit for the Matt Lauer interview, and he was right. He was right about the pharmaceutical industry. He was right about
he's like,
ADHD meds. I mean, he was right about that.
He's like, don't put kids on Ritalin. They're like, whoa!
He was like,
it's crazy. He's jumping on a couch.
I know, and he was like, it's a street drug, and people laughed at that, and it's like, well, it is an amphetamine. And then also he got, there was so many jibes about him jumping on that couch, but the dude had just fallen in love. I would hope that my significant other, especially in the early days of our relationship, would have, if he had been publicly discussing our relationship, I would have loved it if he had jumped on some couches. So, I
mean, that's what I did. The second me and my wife started dating, I started jumping on the couch, but that was more of a shit test to make sure that she would put up with me. It's like, oh, you like me that much? Well, and then I start jumping on the couch like a madman to see if she will kick me out. Believe it or not, she kept me. Corey Anderson says, was the dog better than the guy, Colonel?
Nah, they were both about the same level.
That's the problem. You should at least be outlooks maxing your dog.
That's right. That's
Corey
true.
Anderson also says, how are Kellen and Ian doing? Do you mean Kellen and Mark? I don't know how Ian's doing. I believe Kellen is healing up satisfactorily. I sent Kellen a message as soon as I heard initially about the car accident, but, prayers out to them, to both Kellen and Mark. As for Ian, unless something happened to Ian that I don't know about, I'm assuming Ian is dandy. Chief Corey Anderson also says, I am color deficient, Colonel, but are your eyes light green or gray? They are beautiful, just like my wife's.
Oh, thank you. Well, it depends on the lighting and what I'm wearing. So,
do you wait? So are they gray or what color are they?
I mean, there's a mix. If you were to see them up close, there's actually some green, there's some blue, and then there's a little yellow. So. Oh,
there you go. All right, guys, we are all caught up on the super chats now. Before we finish up, there was something very specific that Kurtz wanted to talk about. It is a very important question about nails. Do you want to tell everybody about this? You should pose your question to everybody.
Yeah. So, well, I was looking at a photo of Timothy Chalamet or Chalamet.
It's Chalamet.
Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet and Kylie Jenner. And Kylie, just like all the Kardashians, she loves the long claws. We're not just talking fake nails. We're talking the really long claws. Oh, you see, there. So my question is, do men like this, or do they see it as the equivalent of like when a woman's wearing like too much makeup, like it's just too much? Is it kind of nasty? Or do they imagine the nails like scratching their back during sex and so it's a turn on? Like, I just want to know. I want to know, guys, what do you think of these nails?
That's so everybody in the chat should get their opinions on it. Look, I know that most people, most guys, whenever this discussion comes up when it comes to like eyelashes and stuff, where guys are like, no guy has ever cared about whether you have long eyelashes or not. It also comes up whenever whenever women want to complain about wearing high heels. If men only knew what we go through. And guys are like, bro, I didn't ask you to wear the high heels. Now, that does not mean that men don't love a woman who wears high heels when they go out, you know, on the town, when they get dressed up and stuff like that. But in general, I would guess that the average person, if you have a discussion with them about this, they're going to say they do this for other women. They don't do it for men. Do you think that's a fair assumption?
Yeah, I think it is on things like nails and maybe the heels. Although I have to say, let me just say my pet peeve about a lot of men, all right? A lot of men claim that they hate makeup, and in fact they will criticize women, and some of them will rag on their girlfriends for spending too much time putting it on, and they'll claim they don't like it. But guess what? Guess what turns heads? It's a woman who's made up to the nines, a lot of makeup on. I'm not talking about a ridiculous amount of makeup, but I'm saying that in my 45 years on this earth, I have gone out with a bare face and I have gone out with a decent amount of makeup on, and the heads turn when I wear the makeup. And when I don't wear the makeup, I'll get comments sometimes like, are you feeling okay today? Are you sick? And I think that men have a sort of double consciousness about this, where they like to pretend that they don't like makeup, but they really respond to it. And in fact, I've had a number of men tell me over the years, I prefer the natural look. And I'll say, okay, give me an example of an actress that exemplifies the natural look. And they'll mention an actress to me that actually wears a ton of makeup. It's muted colors, so men don't know what they're looking at. So I do get annoyed with the male insistence that makeup is something that they don't like, and even more irritated when men criticize women for wearing it, when I see you guys responding time and time again to the makeup.
I think one of the differences now, though, is you look at so when you say natural look, that could also mean somebody who wears makeup that's designed to hide itself, right? Like it's designed to not look as
muted
obvious.
Colors.
But when people think of like what they're pushing these days, the Sabrina Carpenters have a face of makeup that's ostensibly like drag.
Yeah, that's too much.
So I look at like the likes of her or the professional wrestler Tiffany Stratton, and it's not what it's like when they take the makeup off. They have perfectly symmetrical faces that people would find traditionally conventionally attractive. But what they look like when it's all said and done looks kind of weird. Not horrific, but it's such a thing that I don't think that that's done. And to their own credit, I guess they're not even pretending it. They say that it's not even for the straight men anyways. They're doing that for the girls and the gays.
Well, and it's a spectrum again, because if we're talking about a Sabrina Carpenter type or someone along those lines, or a Kardashian, then that's obviously excessive. I will say this as well. Performers recognize that when you don't wear a lot of makeup, your features just don't show up as much. You would be shocked, everyone out there, to know that I'm actually in real life right now. If you were to stand here and look at me, I'm wearing a ton of makeup, but it doesn't really show up. My face looks, you can see some eyeliner and a little lip gloss, but my face does not on screen look like I'm wearing a lot. And so I would say also that performers are very much aware that if you want your features to really pop or really show up, then you have to put on a lot of makeup. So that's also a factor. Did we get a vote on the nails?
I'm gonna check here in a second. So what we'll do is actually, you know what? I'm gonna check now. Let's see if anybody has an opinion on this. Jet Spark says natural look means you moisturize your skin and you at least comb your hair. Receptive Skeptic. I'm loving this because I'm seeing names I don't normally see in the chat, so I'm appreciating this. Receptive Skeptic says makeup is supposed to accentuate, not be a full-blown mask like a clown.
Agreed.
Miss Ace Again, these are all names I'm not used to seeing, so thank you guys. Are these from your chat? Are these names you recognize?
No.
Okay.
No.
Designed to enhance your features, but not dramatically, like evening look during the day. Vamp Fashion says, if you see a truly beautiful woman, natural and then fully made up, you would understand the concept. Bad makeup is a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just Put a Towel Down says, don't blame men on the fact that women compete with each other with war paint. That was one of the, I think that line.
Well, no, wait a minute. I'm not blaming men for that. I'm blaming men for the false consciousness of criticizing women for wearing makeup and men pretending that they don't respond to it when they do. That's what I'm criticizing. But anyway, go ahead.
On the war paint topic, I think that was the line that popped the most for me at the very beginning of The Dark Knight when they're describing the Joker and they mention that what he wears is war paint. I always liked the writing of that line. So, look, I again, the nails, I think also people think of like Cynthia Erivo when she had the nails like that. And everyone's like, how do you go to the bathroom? That's what they're thinking.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish up these super chats here. We will get through the rest of these. We got some more here. Let me go back here. Back up here.
Allergies today?
A little bit. All right.
Yeah, okay. By the way, on the topic of Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, I get really tired of seeing these women who clearly, I don't want to say they have eating disorders. I don't know what their issue is, but they are emaciated looking. And I really think that this needs to be acknowledged. Like, why we see these women everywhere and they're clearly not healthy. This should be discussed more. I don't know. It's like we're all pretending, society's pretending that there's not something terribly wrong with these two women. And I don't know if it's an eating disorder or if they're just so stressed out and busy or what it is. But these two women have gotten progressively more sickly looking, and I'm concerned for them. And I'm also concerned for society where this is not acknowledged or commented on, that these two skeletons are out here all the time doing all this press and stuff. And it's like, this is not healthy.
I kind of disagree about, at least about Ariana Grande. When she was on the second press tour, don't get me wrong, she was still very thin, but I don't think that she's
looking better.
I don't think she was as bad as the first press tour. And now people are basically pointing out that she looks like she's kind of she looks less gaunt than she did before.
Good.
I think a big part of it, honestly, is getting rid of the yellow blonde hair, which made her look sickly.
Okay.
But in general, I don't think that she looks nearly as emaciated as she did before.
Well, good. Maybe she's getting healthier.
Like she's still skinny, but she's not the same type of skinny that she.
And weight does fluctuate. I'm the same way. I mean, I'm very, very thin right now. And so, when you're very busy, and I'm sure these women are very busy and they're all this pressure to look a certain way and stuff. But there was a period of time there when these two were doing press and it was making me almost nauseated to look at them. I'm thinking, this is not healthy. This is not a healthy image for people to be seeing. But,
absolutely. All right. Corey Anderson says, I thought Ian was in the car too. They're saying that Tim did more, talked about this more on IRL last night. I did not see it. Shane H. Weiler says, Corey, for Kellen, Mark, and Ian, go back to the super chats from yesterday's IRL. Tim went into detail. Ian should be out of quarantine soon. Well then, all right, prayers to him. I did not know that about Ian. He's not a complainer. He's not out here complaining about his misfortune. He's just living his life. We love Ian here. Corey Anderson says, Brett, why do your shirts have huge neck holes? I don't think that this one particularly is all that bad, but that has been a consistent, and I do mean a consistent topic of discussion. You would you hear about how people, they over focus on celebrities like Ariana Grande's out here. Like, why is everybody talking about my weight? Why can't I just be left alone? I would like to know why everybody is so fascinated by the collars of my shirt, because I will check the chat on any random day and they're wondering why my shirt looks that way. I always, I do wear, I always wore shirts with more room there, just because if you're out skating in like extremely hot weather, I would rather have it not be restricted. And that just goes to the style of t-shirt that I wear. I used to wear, so when shirts would have the collars that would come up this high, where it's like a separate, like it's like sewn in there, I would cut that out to make a wider collar on my shirts at the hemline. So there, that's your answer. He also says, I see long nails as poop nails. Thank you for that, Corey Anderson. He said, Corey Anderson, again, he is on a spree today. Says, women wear high heels because of the foot. The shoes are, women wear high heels. Do you mean don't wear high heels? He said, women wear high heels because of the foot, off of the foot. The shoes are beautiful. Oh, because I see what he's saying now. Because when they're not on somebody's foot, the shoes look beautiful.
Well, the reasoning for high heels, honestly, is that when you elongate the leg, it's not about the feet. It's about what it does for the leg. And so when you wear high heels, which I never wear because I'm too lazy and I'm too into comfort. But when you wear high heels, it makes the calf pop out, kind of makes the ass pop out, and it just makes the leg look a lot more attractive.
Because off of the foot, the shoes are beautiful. Women wear flats, but those hurt their feet. But those hurt their feet too. Love when my wife is dolled up. Well, you should send her the super chat and talk about it. Let her know that you're out here standing her today on the show. She will appreciate that. He also says, Colonel, men don't know. Are you currently wearing makeup? If you asked me, I would say no, because I am not familiar with the application of makeup.
Yeah, well, some of it too, like I said, is that it doesn't show up as much on screen. But yes, I'm wearing a full face of foundation. So my face, first of all, is totally covered with flesh colored foundation. I'm wearing eyeliner, I'm wearing mascara, I'm wearing lip liner, and I'm wearing lip gloss.
Yep.
So.
All right. Somebody else pointed out that I'm always doing this. I do this constantly on the show. That is it's not a nervous.
That's your tick.
It's not a nervous tick because I'm not nervous, but actually what it is like they're uneven in how it spreads. So I'm like trying to even it out. Yes, that is one of my ticks. Fair enough. All right. Greg Duvier says, I like Toitos. Yes, me too, my friend. Alejandro Reyes says, just made it to the long fake nails part. Garish and weird. All right. Chief Corey Anderson says, once again, Colonel, how much do you spend on your hair? My wife spends like $300 every 2.5 months. She says it's the norm. Answer the question. Don't take her side.
It probably is the norm. I'm so lazy about my hair, as you can tell today. I mean, I just put it up, but so I don't spend anything. I cut my hair myself. I dye it myself. So I spend the money for a box of hair dye. But again, I am not the norm on that. So I would say that your wife is not excessive.
All right. That was the honest answer. All right. He also asks, how tall are you? My guess is 5'7".
5'5".
Okay. Corey Anderson says, let's get Kurtz on IRL. Brett, you have an in, right? I mean, I don't even know.
I have been on there before, but yeah.
And you were just on Culture War recently.
Yeah. So check me out on Culture War. I was on the Candace Owens segment. And so you can see me talking for a couple of hours in Vegas about Candace Owens.
Okay. Shage Wilder, Ian went to check in on the guys in the hospital and was exposed to someone with pneumonia. He is in quarantine for safety. That is crazy. That's just all sorts of bad luck for everybody. Prayers up for Ian. My goodness. All right. Guys, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us live today, both on YouTube and on Rumble. Remember, this show does not work without you guys watching. This show does not happen without you guys watching, engaging with the content. We are always very, very appreciative of that. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel and subscribe to Colonel Kurtz channel, right?
That's right. Colonel Kurtz 99 on YouTube and social media, Instagram, Twitter.
Where else? What are your other platforms? Is it Colonel Kurtz 99 there too?
Everywhere.
Everywhere?
Yeah.
Damn, I love the uniformity of it. That's good. All right. If you guys want to follow me, I am on Instagram and on X at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. This show is here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is, of course, noon Pacific. Remember, Mary will be back tomorrow. She will also be here on Friday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. On Thursday, Alex is going to be in studio with me. I'm hoping to get Brandon and possibly Chuck on the show. That should be a lot of fun that day. If you want to listen to the audio version of this podcast, you can listen on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify. You can also rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify, which is another great way to help the channel out. So thank you guys so much for that. And if you want to follow us on social media, we are on Twix at popculture_show, Facebook at popculturecrisis, Instagram at popculturecrisisPod. Guys, we will be back with another episode tomorrow. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.